Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez, and you're listening to episode number 649, if I may have my numbering correct. Again, we're working through the backlog. By the time you hear this, I'm hoping to be caught up. We'll see what happens. But on this episode, we talk about reactions to the new Transformers 1 trailer. Transformers 1, why? Because it's once again the rebranding, the reintroduction, the retelling of the Transformers storyline to a new generation, a new potential series of potential customers, a new crop of kids that are going to grow up and watch the stories and hopefully enjoy them as much as we did when we were kids. When I think of Transformers, do I think of a buddy comedy adventure movie? Not necessarily, but in this version, Megatron and Optimus Prime apparently are pals, get into trouble together, and go off to have adventures with Elita 1 and whatever Bumblebee is being referred to as in this trailer. Even Megatron is not Megatron, he's like D16 or something like that. So, if you've seen the trailer, you know what I'm talking about. We give my thoughts and my reactions to it, and Doug tells me some stories about him, his experience with Transformers. From there, we talk about some other films and other stories as well, and we go about our usual fun. So, we are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under the various different sections over there. There's games, comic books, movies, TV, celebrities, wrestling. Check us out. Have fun. We're also over at Rabblecast.libsyn.com, where the show is uploaded all the time directly. Check us out on YouTube at Rabblecast. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast. Check out the Rabblecast Facebook fan page and email us, rabblecast@gmail.com. Did you check out the new Transformers 1 trailer? Did you like it? Did you not? Let us know what you thought. Also, I posted the trailer on the Facebook fan page, so if you want, drop a comment there. All right, that's about it. I'm not going to delay it any further. Let's get into it. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Rabblecast. I'm Doug.
I'm Eric.
What are we doing, man?
Same do we do every week. Just sit here and talk and BS and catch up. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging live. I'm hanging loose. I'm feeling okay. I'm doing things. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm going. How are you?
I can say pretty much the same. Yeah.
All right.
Just not much has changed. For anybody who's curious, for me, I know there's a few episodes a while back where I was complaining about the day job and everything else. I'm hoping things will change in the near future. I have taken some steps to hopefully remedy my situation, and we'll see where that lands in the next few weeks. But I'm trying to be the best little worker that I can be in the meantime. One of my friends told me, whatever happens, whatever comes your way, just give me your best yes, Mazza.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it comes down to. Although it was funny today, as we're going through my son's little folder for school, where they send home progress reports or any artwork that he might have worked on in school. There was a permission slip that was in one of the folders. And it says, bring your kid to work day.
Yeah, okay.
My youngest is a little Tasmanian devil.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen made the very funny suggestion of, hey, why don't you take him to work and just leave him in your boss's office? He'll just destroy the place. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Unfortunately, our facility is very locked down. Like, they don't let anybody in unless you log in and this and that. And it's overblown BS and it's contrived, but yeah, it unfortunately really would not work out long term. So, but it was a funny idea just to think, possibly, maybe, nah. Drive my balls up the wall. So We'll see. Like I said, hopefully things will change, and I'll make little updates here and there. I'm not gonna try to bog everybody down with what's going on as far as that's concerned. I know we all have our own shit we're going through, and we have to like deal with it, and hopefully come out on the other end better. That's my hope right now. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So,
well, hey man, you do the best you can with what you got, and just keep on humping forward.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I think there's stuff going on outside the studio.
Yeah, I can hear shit in the background.
I think it might be my kid. Well, you never know those two. I wanted to bring up a topic today. And it's a silly topic. It involves yet again another movie trailer, one that dropped recently. So, for anybody who's out there and knows of a manager, an owner of any kind of movie theater, they get invited to participate and to see material at CinemaCon. Are you familiar with CinemaCon by chance?
I've never heard of it.
So CinemaCon, think about it as pretty much a convention for theater owners. So the idea is they get together and they will show early screenings or early viewings or trailers or sneak peeks that will not be revealed to the public. It's just for the owners and operators of said theaters so that they have an idea of what they can be exhibiting at their theaters on their screens.
Okay.
Recently, the MCU has Deadpool 3 coming out. The new Captain America New World Order movie is coming out. And another film that just was revealed recently, and it's been talked about, so we knew it was coming. It wasn't like it was a big secret. But Transformers 1 just dropped their trailer. I don't know if it's the same trailer that was revealed at CinemaCon, but we finally get a look at what the new Transformers movie is going to look like. And they're taking a slightly different approach to the whole thing. It's animated, thankfully. It's if anybody's a fan of Generation 1 or old school Transformers from I believe it was 84. Yes, because they're celebrating 40 years this year. But the biggest thing with Transformers ever since the original cartoons and the old 86 animated movie was whenever they made a new series, whenever they made a new movie, they could never go back to the old G1 style for some reason. They always wanted to reinvent the wheel to a certain degree. When they let Michael Bay come in and direct, they more or less said, hey, look, you can make it whatever you want. You can call them Michael Bay's Transformers. You're not allowed to touch G1. That's sacred. We're going to hold on to that. That's all the fans love us for that, so we're not going to let that get sullied in any way. But you can make whatever you want. Make them different versions. Take liberties with the designs. Hell, even change up some of the different designs as far as like the facial features and structures. All this bunch of stuff. And if anybody's ever seen a Michael Bay Transformers movie, you will know why a good majority of the Transformers fan base dislikes them. It's more or less the same with a lot of Michael Bay movies, so there's not really that much separation there, unfortunately. But hey, he's had a few good ones here and there.
Yes and no. I've never watched a single Michael Bay Transformers movie.
You don't have to. For the sake of this conversation, you really don't have to. I only bring it up because there is a marked difference as far as like G1 to the different series that were made in tandem with different Japanese studios as far as cartoons, and then the actual live action movies, which they were hoping for, and they succeeded with mainstream effect and making Transformers for a younger generation. So let's put it that way. The old school fans feel a certain way about Transformers. The new school fans, the younger generation, has taken to them in a certain respect. It's their Generation 1, essentially. So it's their starting point. It's what they know. If you try to show them the G1 cartoons, they might have certain reactions. They might think the animation's, outdated, or the voice acting is a little clunky. And again, this is back from the 80s, different style of cartoons, different era. before they stopped the whole advertising the kids thing. So, because let's face it, a lot of those cartoons, and even I had to come to terms with this as I got older. All those cartoons were essentially 20 to 30-minute advertising cartoons just for the toys.
Yep.
In fact, when they made the 86 movie, the idea behind the movie was, we're going to kill off the old line of toys because we no longer going to manufacture those. We want to manufacture a new line of toys, so let's introduce new characters to which these kids can now ask mommy and daddy for their birthdays and holidays. And
hell yeah.
it backfired with the death of Optimus Prime, because they didn't realize that, holy shit, these kids are actually emotionally invested in these characters. Maybe we should have rethought this approach. I will bring up the one point of Hasbro making 2 movies at the time, and G.I. Joe and Transformers, and saying, hey, we want to get these out there. We want to make sure that we get the, mainstream appeal. And once again, with the animated films, they were hoping to advertise in a longer form in theaters to kids all these movies. Well, G.I. Joe was supposed to come out first. That fell behind due to some scheduling conflicts with the art, or whatever the case was. Production just fell behind. So Transformers was released first in theaters, and that's what showcased the death of Optimus Prime. In the G.I. Joe movie, you were supposed to have death in that one as well, because they were going to, get rid of the old Joes and introduce the new Joes. Well, once they had the reaction and the backlash from Optimus Prime dying, they said, maybe we should rethink this approach. So Duke, who was supposed to die in that film, was saved, or at least rewritten. Instead of dying at the hands of Serpentor, they decided they were going to put him into a coma after a snake javelin is thrown at his heart. It sounds as ridiculous as it does. Trust me, if you watch it, it is just as silly. But they're like, yeah, we're going to do a little ad-libbing at the end of the film and just say, hey, Duke woke up from his coma. Just because at that point they're like, oh, kids actually like these characters. Kids have gotten used to these characters over the few years that we've been running these cartoons on TV. And they bought the figures. They bought, whatever merchandise that's been out there, the lunch boxes and everything else. And they feel hurt when one of their heroes dies. So maybe we shouldn't, scar these kids' psyches from an early point. But that was all back then. Since then, there's been a number of Michael Bay movies. They're called Michael Bay's Transformers, or Bayformers, if they've been nicknamed. And fans have been asking for a return to G1. When they made the Bumblebee movie, they got close. They showed this one scene in the beginning of the Bumblebee movie where they're back on Cybertron before they leave the planet to come to Earth. In fact, Bumblebee in particular is shown as he's leaving. And they did 3D renderings of all the Transformers, and they looked the closest to this day as far as old school Transformers. The follow-up movie that they did, which was Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I'm sorry if this is like bogging you down. I know there's a lot of backstory and nonsense.
I'm trying to keep up with you, mate.
Okay, so follow me on this one. After G1, it's been a long time since they made a regular Transformers cartoon. Somewhere in the 90s, they made Transformers Beast Wars. It was the first CGI Transformers animated show. At the time, it was cutting edge for what they could do and what they could afford, but introduced a lot of different characters, Optimus Primal being one of them. It's essentially Optimus Prime as a gorilla. It takes place on prehistoric Earth, what they find out is prehistoric Earth, because when they crash land on this planet, they somehow go through some time warp, and rather than being in the future where these Transformers come from, they end up in our past. And they culminate this with a crossover when they find the original Transformers from Generation 1 unconscious in a volcano on the Ark, which is the Autobot spaceship. And they have like minor interactions between Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal, and Megatron as the T-Rex and Megatron as the original G1 gun. That was a fun little meet up between the two, because it kind of like validified all the G1 stuff. people are like, oh, I remember that. Then now they're crossing over. Suddenly Beast Wars is cool. they got the old school fans on board. But that, those are different approaches, different takes, whatever the case was. And it was, again, on Transformers for a younger generation. Now they decided that they're going to release Transformers 1. And it's been talked about for quite some time. It already has some controversy because they're casting well-known actors as the characters. Normally in voiceover, there's a group of people that they go for. If you look at any of the old Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, all those cartoons had a lot of well-known voice actors who had various roles amongst all those different cartoons. Look them up. I mean, it'd be hard. I'd be hard pressed to try to name a bunch of them off the top of my head without being fair, but there is a whole class of actors, voice actors, that would normally get first dibs at these roles. In this case, we have Scarlett Johansson, Chris Hemsworth, Keegan-Michael Key, and what's the other guy's name? Brian Tyree Henry.
Okay.
Those are going to be your main 4 characters. So Scarlett Johansson's going to be Elita 1, which is Optimus Prime's love interest. Chris Hemsworth is going to be Prime / Orion Pax, the early version of Optimus Prime. Brian Tyree Henry is going to be playing D16, which is the precursor in this storyline to Megatron. And then you've got Keegan-Michael Key, who's going to be playing B127, I believe, which is supposed to be Bumblebee. If you watch the trailer, and I'm not telling you have to. I watched the trailer earlier today.
Okay.
In fact, one of my cousins even sent me the trailer on Facebook Messenger, which I thought was really cool. And I don't know if you wanted a reaction from me, but I was going to post it up on the Rabblecast Facebook page so that anybody else could watch it. And I tried to be as neutral as possible when I made the comment. I would just say, hey, just leave your reactions in the comments, whatever the case is. The way the trailer portrays Megatron and Orion, in this case, early Optimus, it's like a buddy cop adventure movie.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
When I think of Transformers, I don't think comedy. I don't think of silliness. I don't think of slapstick. Don't get me wrong, there are moments like that happen in a bunch of those old cartoons, but this was just, the trailer is comedy heavy. And already I was seeing online, I just wanted to see the reactions from the fans. And I belong to a bunch of different groups on social media that involve Transformers. So already there were people saying, nope, hard pass for me. Nope, the look is there, but the writing is very off. And people are already just saying, not for me. The voice actors, we could have gone with the old style voice actors. Why did we have to go with these guys? Scarlett Johansson, Chris Hemsworth. Let's face it, they made a ton of money out of the MCU. Not saying that they can't act in any other films or any other franchises or genres, but they're pretty well known, and it's kind of again, it's... I don't want to say it's cheating, because it's almost like, I do believe it was referred to in the back like stunt casting. Just because the person has a name, you're hoping that that's going to bring more eyeballs to your film. And so far, the reaction that people have been getting is, look is there. Never thought of this as a comedy movie or much like a buddy road trip movie. But one of the opinions was, it felt like they made a buddy comedy movie, couldn't get it to work, retooled it for Transformers, and said, you know what, this would really work if we got some well-known actors. Now, this is all based off of the trailer, so I'm not condemning this whatsoever. I'm trying to keep an open mind, much like how we reacted originally to the Crow trailer, or I should say, to the first Crow image that we saw of Bill Skarsgård, and then we reacted to the trailer itself. That's all still open-ended. We hope that it's going to be good. We're going to wait and see how that turns out. In this case, I know I've said in the past, I don't want to yuck somebody else's yum. This is my yum. What the fuck? So I'm trying to be open-minded. I don't mind that it's not Frank Welker or Peter Cullen, who are Optimus and Megatron, respectively. But it feels like a weird attempt. But then I have to remind myself, those old cartoons came out in '84. Those old cartoons came out in the '80s. Again, they're celebrating 40 years. Those cartoons were made for kids who were going to ask for mom and dad to buy them the new figures when they went to the toy store, or like Toys R Us back in the day, who's thankfully making a comeback. We'll see what happens with that. But I'm no longer that child.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm a grown adult. I have kids of my own. I have a family. I have my responsibilities. So this movie's not for me. This movie is for the younger generation, much how like the Transformers for Michael Bay were for a new generation of Transformers fans. This will be somebody else's generation one of Transformers.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I ran a little experiment. I came home and I played the trailer for my son. I'm like, hey buddy, check it out. It's a Transformers movie. Now he knows I absolutely love Transformers. I've got a bunch of Transformers on my shelves. I bought a few Transformers over the years when they were re-releasing some of the old styles and old molds. He's seen me go like looking for particular Transformers because they make a combiner set, which makes a larger Gestalt Transformer, all this bunch of stuff. Hell, he and I even built the one Lego set of Optimus Prime when it was released. So he knows.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he knows that I have a love for this. For him, it hasn't quite caught on, which I'm not trying to force my interests on him. If he likes it, cool. If he doesn't, move on. He is his own person, so I don't feel the need to say, hey, I'm into playing video games, so I'm going to force my kid to play all the same video games that I played when I was growing up. No, I don't. I don't need to do that kind of thing. If he gravitates towards something, cool. If he doesn't, we'll find the next thing that hopefully he gravitates towards, and we'll try to support and help him in that respect. So I just wanted to run this little experiment. I played the trailer for him. He sat there and he watched this like a 2-3 minute trailer. He says, "Oh, this is interesting," knowing completely well that it's not regular Transformers. I didn't say anything to him, but he can already see it's a change. It's not the Transformers that I watch. So as he sat there, he goes, "Okay, this is cool." And at the end, I ask him, "Would you like to go watch that one?" He goes, "Yeah, that'd be cool. We can go watch it in the theaters. It's coming out in September." "Oh, it's your birthday in September." "Yeah, I think that'd be cool."
All right. There you go.
I'm like, okay, I'll take my son to go see the new Transformers film. It'll be the first one I could ever say it. I take him to go watch. But at the same time, he thought it was funny. Like the slapsticky scenes in the trailer did work for him. They got his attention. They made him chuckle a little bit. But at the same time, Jen's watching it with me going, what the fuck is this? And don't get me wrong, Jen's not a huge Transformers fan. She shares the interest with me, but she's nowhere near the fan that me and my friends are. So again, you can tell that there's a difference in the story. You can tell there's a difference in the at the foundation of this movie itself. Like it's definitely made for a new generation, a different audience. So we'll see how it plays out. But at the same time, I'm like, why can't we just get the old shit? And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I keep asking these dumb questions to myself because they're knee-jerk reaction questions. But it's the same thing for everything. Like when there's a new Batman, when there's a new, Spider-Man, whatever the case is. Whenever they redo something and people get upset, like, oh, why can't we just come up with new ideas rather than rehashing old IP and old nonsense and making sequels of stuff that people are tired about? Yes, I'll agree. We should get more creative stuff out there. And it's hard. Unless Hollywood believes that they can sequelize something, they won't really give it a chance.
Nope. And not even just a sequel. I think they want everything to become a franchise.
You know what? Yes, that's a better way to put it. I say sequelize, but yes, it has to become a franchise. They have to be able to, the one word that I learned when I was watching the Toys That Made Us on Netflix is, if it's not toyetic, which is an actual word now, it was made up in the toy business. If it's not toyetic, they really don't want to, put their hands on it. So action figures, lunchboxes, backpacks, a tire, whatever the case is. when you walked into the Disney store back in the day by our mall, it's no longer there anymore. But you would walk in there, they had all manners of different like Disney characters on all different types of merchandise: shoes, sweatpants, earrings, cups, toys, hats, whatever the case is, decorations. They found a way to print it, make it, sell it, and that's what they want. The movie can make whatever money it wants at the box office. Hopefully it's successful. If it's not, then they hope that the merchandising will at least move, and at that point, they'll go from there. But yeah, now, like I said, there will be a new Batman for every generation, because that's just a popular character that's been done and overdone, and so many different iterations that eventually a young generation will get their own Batman. Batman just passed, I can't remember. I know he's well past 75 years at this point. I think
because Batman came out, what, the 30s? Something like that?
Something around that time frame, yeah. Batman passed 75. I do believe Superman passed 75. I want to say the X-Men recently passed 75. I don't remember off the top of my head the anniversary dates. But all these IPs have been around for so long that it would make sense that they're going to bring them back over and over again so they can have new generations enjoy them as well. We were talking about when the X-Men 97 cartoon came out on Disney Plus, that they were saying that this year, 2024, is going to be the year of the X-Men, because they're planning on not only adding them to the MCU, but the new X-Men 97 cartoon, and then they're going to be relaunching the X-Men books themselves. So all that stuff, is being made new again for new readers, new fans, new customers, really what it comes down to.
You know what's crazy to think about with that too?
What's that?
I mean, if you think about it, like for the original set of movies, the first one came out in 2000, 24 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
And we had X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, the Wolverine origin story, X-Men First Class, which is, I think, actually might be the best out of all of them, in my opinion. Bloody hell, I'm trying to remember what the fuck they had after that.
Days of Future Past.
Oh, yeah, Days of Future Past, and then they got into Apocalypse.
Yep.
I think that was it, or did they do a Phoenix one?
They did the Phoenix one, which... Yeah, the Apocalypse and Phoenix one were saddled with a bunch of behind-the-scenes baggage as well, unfortunately. That's due to Bryan Singer and all his nonsense. So, trust me, if you if you go online and look up all the stuff as far as Bryan Singer and his reputation in Hollywood now, it unfortunately got in the way of the last two X-Men movies.
Yeah, he's kind of rapey, isn't
he? Yeah, exactly. Young boys, hot tub parties... Some weird nonsense, but
okay.
But yeah, as far as the X-Men is concerned, we have all these different movies. Let's not forget the old X-Men cartoon that was on Fox back in the day. Not to mention all the comic books, the lore, the video games. Like, you have a lot of stuff to try to watch and catch up on if you want to find a good entry point to the X-Men. I will say that the new X-Men 97 cartoon is a great jumping on point, but it does make a lot of references to the early versions of the X-Men cartoon, which was on Fox. So it's kind of like they're recognizing the past, but at the same time trying to hook new viewers as well. And yeah, with all that, not just the movies, but like I said, like the length of time that the characters have been around, there's a lot of stuff there as far as history. Same thing now with Transformers. Transformers 1, I think, is just is a new entry point for new fans, younger fans. But it also, they're not beholden to the old lore. They're not beholden to the old storylines of warring factions on Cybertron who crash land on Earth and now are battling over resources so they can get back to their home planet. Like, you can work into that eventually. I'm assuming that's going to be the case, or you might deviate. I don't know, but you can now play with this open-ended world because it's a lot looser than what we've come to know in the comics and the cartoons and everything else. So I don't know. It's a weird one. And it got me thinking, like, what makes a good Transformers story? Is it because it's like a war-torn battle between two factions? Is it all because of the, the honorable and triumphant Optimus Prime or the tyrannical Megatron with, his different minions who are always trying to scheme behind his back and take control. It's all these different things like revolve around and make the Transformers universe and lore, but that's not just it necessarily. Like, you can take these themes and make a better story, or at least one that would be more, again, mainstream, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the problem is, again, it's a toy. It's a long-running toy advertisement. They weren't without their through lines as far as storytelling. You had continuing character threads and development and everything else, not just from the cartoons, but also from the films. So, like, there's something to be done there. But
yeah,
again, if Hollywood wants to make money, if they want to make more movies, they want to make sure that they have as many eyeballs on the damn thing. So this new one is just that. It's a new iteration. It's a new version of the Transformers for fans. There was, before we got back to doing this regularly, you and I, as far as the show's concerned, there was the Transformers War for Cybertron. It was a trilogy that was on Netflix. And it told another version of the story, before they leave Cybertron, and once again, they're warring factions and everything else, and the ultimate battle between good and evil, Decepticons and Autobots. Once again, Optimus Prime and Megatron are leading their respective factions. And again, they deviated, so it was a different version of the story, but again, wasn't necessarily G1, even though they tried staying somewhat faithful to the visuals. Even before that, on YouTube, there was a channel called Machinima, where they did the Combiner Wars. And that one had a very similar look to G1 style as well. But they were telling their own story further down the line from what we knew back in the day. So it's always like, the prevailing argument is, why can't we get the G1 classic Transformers that we know and love? Again, like with any remake, with any reboot, whatever redo you want to refer to it as, nobody's taken away your G1 classics. Nobody's taken away however many seasons of Transformers there were back then. You want to go back to it? Fine. You want to go back and watch the 86 movie? It's out there in many different versions. In fact, some theaters are even playing it annually on the anniversary date of its release.
Really?
Yeah. Some of the theaters around here, there was, what was the theater? I can't remember now off the top of my head. But they were doing special screening events where you can actually look up and see what theaters might have it. I think it was the Access Fathom Live Events. That's what it was. You can actually look up online and see what theaters in your area might be screening the film. And they'll play it for like a weekend, or they'll play it for a few screenings throughout the day. And you just buy your tickets and go watch Transformers on the big screen.
Huh. All right.
It's usually around August is when that movie came out. So that's usually September or August. They'll do the screenings there. This year they're trying to do this big thing where they're actually going to have Peter Cullen and Frank Welker get together and do like a little Q&A thing. So they're going to play it live on the screen so you can join in and watch yourself and just, and see these guys talk about behind the scenes stuff and how the movie was made. Let's not forget, and this is a fun little tidbit, Transformers 1986, the animated movie, was Orson Welles' last film that he worked on.
You're right, it was. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Orson Welles, who at that point was failing health, and for a number of his recording sessions, they said, unfortunately, like, we can't use a lot of this stuff. Like, we gotta work around with what we got, and that's just unfortunately where he was at that point in his life. Orson Welles, who just has an amazing voice to begin with, or had, at that point in time, was just, having a tough time and did what he could. But he lives on in that film. 86. So if you want to talk about stunt casting, they got rid of a lot of the voices, the usual voices from Transformers, the cartoon, for Transformers, the movie 86. And that was, you had Cullen and Welker come back for their respective roles and their supportive characters that they also voiced as well. But Judd Nelson was Hot Rod. Oh God, I'm trying to remember the other guy's name. The guy who used to do the narration for Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, Robert Stack.
Thank you. Fuck. I just blanked completely. He was Ultra Magnus. Andy Machete, I believe his name was, the guy who used to do the Micro Machine commercials. He spoke really, really fast.
Yeah, the guy, he had the mustache.
Yes. He was one of the teachers on Saved by the Bell at one point. He was known as the Autobot Blur. Leonard Nimoy was Galvatron.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they brought these people in. Why? Because it's a big movie. So if you're going to have a big movie and you're going to have a big budget, well, that's nice. Why don't we get some actors that people know the names of, and hopefully that'll bring them in to watch this film. I don't know if it worked back then. It was a Hasbro film. Is from what I could tell, the theater performance of that movie didn't go as well as they wanted to. Well, probably again because they killed off certain characters.
That movie was traumatizing. Yeah.
Yes, it was the march of death of toys. So there's a few scenes in Transformers, if you haven't seen it in the movie, where flat out some of these characters are being shot and you see their eyes, turn to smoke, or like they have a blast going through their chest. Ironhide, I can't believe I have to say this, but spoilers if you haven't watched this, but at one point, Ironhide is crawling towards Megatron, trying to stop him from getting to Autobot City on Earth, and Megatron just looks down at him and says, "Such heroic nonsense," and just blows his head off with his cannon. You're like, holy shit!
Yep.
Not to mention all the other Decepticons who were also either destroyed, defeated, or reformatted when they come across Unicron, and the story, takes a deeper turn from there. But yeah, no, Hasbro at this point was very hell-bent on saying, we're going to get rid of the old toy lines and try to inject some new revenue by introducing these new characters and toys. And don't get me wrong, it sounds great on paper. From a business perspective, it's what you would want to do. You want to try to introduce new characters to keep things fresh, keep kids more interested in the story and the toys and everything else. By all means, that's how you should and could have gone about it. But the just flat out killing of some of their beloved characters just hit people the wrong way, and some kids just stopped watching.
Yeah, I remember. I was 6 going on 7 when that came out, and I remember going to see it in theaters. And yeah, I remember that fucked me up pretty well. That knocked me on my ass for a little while.
You saw this in theaters?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember very distinctly as a kid, my mom taking me to the theater, and we're walking out. I couldn't tell you what we saw. It was earlier in the summer. And I saw the stand-up in the lobby of the movie theater for Transformers the movie, with the sign on it saying coming in August. And I remember stopping and saying, it's like, oh, wow. And I remember asking my mom, it's like, can we go see that? And she said, we'll see. And I do remember going to see it in the theaters. I just can't remember much else about it. The funny thing is the theater I saw it at got ripped down like 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's long gone. Well, it was right near a river, so the place would flood periodically. So after a while, they're like, "Yeah, this is just don't put this here."
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I'm trying to picture you as a small child in the theater watching this movie, but I'm also picturing you with your shaved head
and a cigarette.
There you go. I'm having trouble picturing younger Doug. But all right. So, did you watch any of the cartoons growing up?
Oh yeah, I loved Transformers when I was a kid growing up.
Were there any characters in particular that you gravitated toward?
Bloody hell, I'm trying to remember. I was completely enamored with the Constructicons.
Oh yeah.
Mainly because when I was a kid, I was like, oh, these are cool. They're like construction equipment. Then it came out, it's like, they can transform and they connect together and make a giant robot. And I was like, wait, what? That's amazing. And because that was just such a novelty too at that point. I was like, wow, this is so wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was all for it. That just blew my fucking mind.
Bumblebee was always the kid-friendly character, which most people loved. He was the family character essentially. Befriends Spike Witwicky, and it's like the human and Transformers relationship is built upon that essentially. I always, in those early cartoons especially, I always gravitated towards the leader characters. So for me, it's always been Optimus Prime. So I am biased when it comes to like these new movies, or whenever they say, "Oh, a new voice actor is gonna, do the role." I'm like, yeah, I want Peter Cullen, because that's the voice. It's like a touch of home, essentially, a touch of my childhood that's still there every now and then. Don't get me wrong, Peter Cullen's been very fortunate that he has been invited back many a times to do not just movies but also video games with different iterations of Optimus Prime. So throughout the Michael Bay movies, it's been Peter Cullen. Frank Welker's come and gone depending on what's going on. I don't know if it's because the studio didn't want him or they wanted a fresher take on it, whatever the case is. But Frank Welker could stop working today and he would not hurt for money for decades to come. I do believe there was an article that came out, and I think we might have talked about this in other episodes way back when, that Frank Welker is the highest paid actor in Hollywood. And that's because he might not be on screen, but the amount of cartoons and movies and commercials and, creature sounds that he's done, he is all over the place. If you need a weird sound, or like, I was listening to Rob Paulson, who's another very famous voice actor. He was referring to another voice actor in the business that said, when a studio needs somebody to come in and like, hey, can you do a sound of a lobster? Yeah, sure, no problem. Can you do a lobster sneezing? Yeah, I could do that. Can you do a lobster sneezing underwater? Sure thing. And he says, wouldn't you fucking know it? The sound that came out of them, you would really believe it was a lobster sneezing underwater. And that's the kind of work that these voice actors can do and pull off. Just a quick character background. I just two off the top of my head. Frank Welker was the voice for Abu in the animated Aladdin movie.
Okay.
And he was also the sounds for Stitch in Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
So weird shit like that, like little types. He's rarely ever like front and center. So Megatron's another one for him, and also Fred from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, okay.
It's like, it's like when you hear these, you're like, oh, I didn't know the same person did the same. Yes, same person does the same voice. And it all depends, what they need and whether they're going to modulate his voice, whatever the case is. They'll have him do other characters or other things on screen, whatever the case is. But yeah, Welker himself has made so much money in the business. Like, you rarely ever really see him do interviews. He will do conventions, but he's, from everything that I've heard, is a pretty modest guy. So pretty fucking awesome to have that much time in the business and still be kind of down to earth. So, but that's to say, like, they get called upon when necessary, whether it's because the director or the studio who's running that film in particular or that project says, oh no, I'd rather go with the old voices, or no, let's give somebody new a try. And for the most part, a lot of these voice actors will say, hey, look, if I get asked to reprise the role, cool. If not, whoever usually takes it on, out of a sign of respect, they'll say, hey, can I get in touch with such and such and find out if it's cool that I do this, because I don't want to step on somebody else's toes. Mainly, I don't want to take away somebody else's payday. And for the most part, they'll say, yeah, it's fine. You've got my blessing. Go for it. So with that in mind, then the project can move forward with much guilt on the new voice actor's part, because they're not taking away something else from somebody else. But I don't know. This is just a long way to say that the new movie, I'll check it out. I'm interested. Like I said, it's got the look. It's not the 3D animated from the beginning of the Bumblebee movie, but it's very close. It's got an animated style. At a certain point in the film, they actually gain their ability to transform. So it'll be like the first time they're able to do this. But the idea that Optimus Prime and Megatron are like buddy-buddy before they turn into warring factions and the leaders of them, it's for a new generation, or for a new crop of kids. So hopefully it does well. We'll see what happens. Hearing Chris Hemsworth with an American accent, it's kind of weird. But he's doing his best not to be Thor, I guess. He's gonna be in the other Mad Max movie. There's a new one,
Oh,
Mad
he is.
Max. Well, I think it's just Furiosa or something like that, right?
Yeah, I want to say I'm pretty sure it's. Now that you mention it, it's coming back to me. I think it's going to be a prequel to Fury Road that shows Furiosa's story.
Yes, and they recast Furiosa herself.
Yes.
I'm blanking on who's playing her off the top of my head. She's been around. She's been doing recent films and recent projects as well. She did the voice of Princess Peach in the Mario Brothers movie recently. And Chris Hemsworth is going to be one of the bad guys with like this prosthetic nose that's added to his character. And it makes you do a double take. You're like, hey, that looks like Chris Hemsworth. Oh shit, that is Chris Hemsworth. What the fuck?
Um, the actress who is going to be playing Furiosa is Anna Taylor-Joy.
Okay. Do they have Chris Hemsworth character from that film? What the name is?
No, I'm looking at Wikipedia, right? Or
Okay.
I'm looking at Google search right now, and it's just blank where it says Chris Hemsworth. So I'm taking that as they haven't revealed who he is going to be. Although it's funny because Tom Hardy's listed in it, and they haven't listed a name under him. But it's like he's probably going to play fucking Mad Max, right?
I would assume so. Unless they're going to bring him
Because
back from
yeah,
something else.
because they're also bringing back Nathan Jones as Rictus Erectus, which is awesome.
Oh, that's an amazing character.
And Nicholas Holt is coming back, so I'm assuming he's going to be coming back as Nux. Um, but we shall see. I forgot that was coming out this year. I thought that was coming out like next year. So, yeah, learn something new every day.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are like going to be bumping up to one another in the theaters real soon, which is going to be, I don't know, the way the theaters are going to now, like I mentioned CinemaCon earlier. The idea is to give you like the pulse of the business going forward, and hoping that you can count on some of these movies to bring in the box office for you.
Hmm.
But the way things have been going recently, like I thought the new Ghostbusters Frozen Empire would have done more at the box office than it did.
Yeah.
But then you got Dune 2, which crushed the box office. So, either I can't gauge these movies anymore and I'm losing touch in a certain respect. And not to say that I ever had any kind of touch as far as predicting movie performances at all. I just go and watch what I like. I would like to think that I'm your average moviegoer, essentially. At least I was at one point, where I can pick the movies that are going to be popular. But let's put it this way: the battle between Barbie and Oppenheimer, I would have put the money in Oppenheimer's corner easily.
Hmm.
That wasn't the case. I mean, don't get me wrong; it did well and it got awards and everything else. But Barbie, far and away, just killed it.
Oh yeah, Barbie made I think it was like a margin of like 2-1.
Yeah,
Oh, quick side note.
sure.
Just to go back, I checked on Wikipedia in Furiosa, a Mad Max story. Chris Hemsworth is going to play a character called Warlord Dementis,
I
which
I
is
love the name of these
ridiculous.
movies.
Yeah, it's so silly.
Are they bringing back Immortan Joe?
Um, the Yes, but it's going to be a younger person playing it, of course, since it's going to be like set previously. So, yeah, some guy named Lackey, LHCY, Lashy, I don't know how the hell to pronounce that, Holm, Hulme, is going to be playing him.
Okay.
Probably because the guy who played Immortan Joe last time I think he got into some trouble.
Did he?
Oh, no, he's dead. Never mind.
Yes, he got into some trouble. He died.
Hugh Keys Burn, yeah, he died in December of 2020. I was like, oh, well, he did get in trouble. He doesn't exist anymore. Sorry, man.
He got in trouble with reality. I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, those movies are always good. And George Miller has. Look, they've been wanting to make that movie as far as like Mad Max Fury Road for the longest time. When they finally got down to it, there's even stories of him getting into arguments with Tom Hardy on set.
Hmm.
the way it was filmed or the way they were shooting things, and Tom Hardy wasn't understanding what was happening. But then when they finally did the screening and everybody got to watch the movie together, and Tom Hardy's like, well, fuck me, like, he knows what the fuck he was doing, because I had no clue what was going on, but this looks amazing. So you just gotta wait and see if that's the case. I don't know if Miller is still directing this one. I can't remember off the top of my head now. Obviously, like, this whole continuation of Mad Max is his universe, his idea. So hopefully, if they continue them, so we'll see what happens. And that's also another good one that brought a lot of attention back to movies. Because when I remember when Mad Max came out and we went to go watch it, it was you, me, and Jimmy, and was anybody else with us? I can't remember off the top of my head.
When we went to go see
Mad Max Fury Road.
You were with us?
Yes.
I remember Jimmy being there, but I don't remember you being there. Holy shit, man! Sorry.
No, it's cool. I remember specifically only because the scene where they have like the cavalcade of Immortan Joe's vehicles going through the desert, and they do that whole sandstorm scene. After everything that happens in that battle in that sequence, I literally forgot to breathe because suddenly my body just took in a deep breath of air. Like, I sighed really loudly, and Jimmy just starts laughing. He goes, "Did you forget to breathe during that?" I'm like, "I think I did."
Well, that is such like an intense. That scene is like wildly intense too. So yeah.
Yeah, I was not expecting it. For anybody who has not watched Mad Max Fury Road, I know it's a few years back at this point, but if you have the means, especially if you have a nice setup at home with like a big screen TV and a sound bar and everything else, rent it, buy it, whatever the case is. It's a wonderful movie to watch. You can pick it apart like any other movie, but just the visuals, the sound, the sequences, it's very well done. There's a reason why it was being lauded so much when it first came out. And people were like, "Oh my god, this is crazy. We're back to Mad Max. We're going to get more Mad Max movies." And then now we're getting a Furiosa prequel. Which, don't get me wrong, that character is awesome too. But people were expecting more Mad Max, Mad Max, Mad Max. And now we're just saying, I know, we're going to dabble in the Mad Max world now and see what we can come up with. So, hey, again, franchise. So, they're going to look at different characters from different points of view. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Like, it's also because, we know lots about Mad Max. That was the fourth movie that we had Mad Max going around. I mean, between Tom Hardy and Mel Gibson way back when. So, hey, if we're going to do an entire movie and just base it around this other interesting ass character that they came up with on the thing, hey, I'm fucking down for it. I mean, let's fucking do it. Let's rock it. Let's see what we get.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, again, wait and see as far as how that one plays out as well. And hopefully, I don't know how old George Miller is at this point, but hopefully he can still work on that and other projects as well. Back in the day, he was supposed to make a Justice League movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the subtitle for it, but you had a bunch of up-and-comers at the time going to be playing different members of the Justice League. And because of budgets and scheduling and other nonsense, they just couldn't get it to pull together. And you almost get the sense of, like, had they let him do what he wanted to do back then with that, what kind of film would have been, birthed out of that maelstrom.
Mm-hmm.
That was DJ Catrona was going to play Superman. I believe Armie Hammer was going to be Batman, and a bunch of other characters. I can't. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been a while. I'll have to look that one up again. But that falls in the whole woulda, coulda, shoulda idea. But then again, we go back to Mad Max. You see how well that did and how well that was received. You're like, yeah, just give the man money. If he has an idea, if he has a vision, let him do something. Chances are it's going to hit pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm.
In other cases, studios are just so scared. They're like, I don't know. Maybe we should get more funding. We should get a partner in on this, another studio, just to make sure. Let's get some funding from overseas, which is why every time you see a movie nowadays, you see like different film companies in the opening credits. So it's like 4 or 5 different film companies that come together. Why? Because everybody's pitching in money so that no one person or studio is taking the brunt of the hit. So it's all financing, baby.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. Since we're going to have new versions of characters over and over again, and different iterations at different times. I know we've had different iterations of horror characters. If you could give a trilogy to an old horror character, who would you pick?
Just the trilogy?
I say trilogy only because it gives it time. It's not like let's say Friday the 13th, the first one. It's not just a one and done. You are going to be able to be given the chance to flesh the character out over multiple films. I say trilogy only to open the conversation, but it could be multiples, definitely.
Okay. Actually, one of the first things I was going to say is, that. I think we're more than ready for another Friday the 13th movie. We haven't had... the last one we got was the Reboot, and that was already 15 years ago.
Wow, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, because that came out in like January or February of 2009. And honestly, at that point in time, the only purpose of that movie was when they were giving, with the success of Supernatural, which at that point I think was like 4 or 5 seasons in. Yeah, they gave Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki. They each got their, here's a horror movie, we're going to stick you in it, and we're going to run with that. And yeah, Jared Padalecki got the Friday the 13th remake, and Jensen Ackles got the remake of My Bloody Valentine. But going back even further, the one character I'd love to see them do more with, but it's always been in kind of like a weird state, is Count Orlok from the original Nosferatu.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's that one was always cool because I don't know if you ever we were almost in a situation where that movie did not exist. Do you know the story of how Nosferatu came to be back in the 1920s?
I do not, sir.
So Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau, who was a German director, was popular at the time. This is 1920s, so it's Weimar Republic, if I remember correctly. It was the arts were alive. There was a lot of weird shit going on in Germany at the time. Of course, as this was all pre-Third Reich stuff. So he really wanted to make an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, but he could not come to an agreement with the estate because at that point Stoker had been dead for I think 10 or 20 years. So what he did was he got together with his team and said, okay, we're going to write a script and we're just going to see if we can change enough stuff to make it so we're not technically violating any copyright laws. So they did that, and they came up with Nosferatu. I'm not even going to attempt the German. I can't pronounce it, but it's called The Symphony of Terror. And it was pretty cool because it was, they just changed everything around. Instead of being called Dracula, he was called Orlok and all that kind of stuff. And he was a lot more like just creepy looking. And for years, like one of the rumors floating around was that Murnau actually found a vampire to play the role. It turns out the guy who played him, Max Schreck, he was just this wild ass method actor who just went method for the film to the point where he only appeared in makeup and he only appeared on set at night until I believe the filming was over, and then he was like, okay, we're done, I can stop being this character. But after the movie got made, they got sued, and there was actually like a whole bunch of stuff. I might be blanking on a detail or two, but yeah, they were supposed to destroy all the prints of the movie.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it almost became the movie that no longer existed, but I can't remember if they got something snuck through or if they just kind of tucked a couple of them away or what they pulled off, but yeah, it ended up it became it's in public domain now. So that's why if you ever wander around, you're seeing like bootleg or discount DVDs, you're going to see like copies of that along with Night of the Living Dead all over the place because that's another one in public domain. But yeah, it's pound for pound, blow for blow. Like I always thought it was fantastic. And we got a remake of that in the 70s with fucking hell, I can't remember anybody's fucking name right now. Klaus Kinski. Klaus Kinski played Nosferatu in that one. Good, not as good, but yeah, I'd like to see something more in that neighborhood because the elegant Dracula is cool, but I kind of like the idea of him being like kind of like a desiccated, like creepy motherfucker. So,
Okay.
hmm what about you?
Uh,
Anything?
as far as horror is concerned,
Yeah,
um,
well, horror or anything else for that matter. I know you're not as much of a horror guy as I am.
well, that's just the thing. Like, especially when you teach me things like you just did right now, like I'm actually tempted to go look up the old movies and especially go watch the Shadow of the Vampire um,
Oh,
movie that was made, which
so
is
fucking
along the
good.
lines of Nosferatu as well. Yeah, that's I always try to find other characters to try to like learn about and figure out more. Like we can talk about um, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers. Like those are characters that are pretty well known at this point. As far as horror, they're like titans when it comes to the horror genre.
hmm
Uh, this is going to sound really silly, but I would love multiple tellings and like a little sci-fi thrown in there for good measure. Critters.
Oh wow,
There was
fuck yeah.
something about the old Critters movies that simultaneously scared me and enthralled me. Like the idea of these little bastards from outer space, they just came and just start eating and destroying everything. Especially like when they started going after the livestock when they first landed. And then the fact that they have the bounty hunters that come after them and have like protoform faces, and so that they could blend in with the locals. They'll stare at a video or they'll stare at like a print ad in a magazine, and they'll suddenly assimilate that look so that they can pass for a human, and then go around with their giant like space cannons and take them out. It was campy and kitsch for what it was, and it was and the idea was that it was supposed to be a little scary, but I would love to get a better idea of like the whole backstory. How many Critters movies were there? I only remember two of them.
I'm pretty sure there's the third one.
Was there?
I by that point I think they were working straight to video, to be perfectly honest with you.
Not surprising.
But yeah, for some reason in my head I'm thinking there were three, but I'm dragging out my words because I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
Um, Jesus fucking Christ, Google, how many fucking crap do you have to pull up before you get me to Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Da, da, da,
Because I
da,
remember the little
let's see.
bastards like demented space hedgehogs. They would eat. They would roll up into little balls. They could combine into a giant ball and
Yes.
and destroy anything that they rolled over. And they also had those little barbs that they would shoot out, and they would paralyze their victims.
Holy shit.
Uh oh.
There were five Critters movies.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, there was Critters, Critters 2, the main course, Critters 3, Critters 4, and then those were all between 1986 and 1992. And then in 2019, we got Critters Attack.
Oh shit! Really?
And yeah, in 2019. And there was also a TV show that was on Shudder called Critters: A New Binge. Oh,
Huh.
wow. Yeah, it was an 8 episode run of one season. Yeah, came out. It was filmed in 2018, came out on Shudder in 2019.
I wonder if the pandemic didn't kill the hopes of that continuing.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the first I ever heard of it. I was like, I saw that come up and I was like, wait, what?
It sounds like I
So,
got my wish and I missed it.
yeah, that's wild.
That's
All
funny.
right.
Okay, well now I gotta go look up some more stuff on critters.
Yeah, and I only ever watched the first two, but um, I remember liking those when I was younger, back like when I saw those in like the early 90s. And I remember Critters 3, when working at a video store, I remember seeing that on the shelf, but I never watched it.
Wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio one of them? I think it was in Critters 2.
Really?
I vaguely remember Leo and Critters being in the same film.
Um,
I could be
I
wrong.
think you might be imagining things because I'm flipping through the cast of Critters 2 and I do not see him on here anywhere.
Okay.
No, I'm not seeing him.
And apparently I can't spell critters. There it is.
And that shit happens. Critters 2 was the one where, one of the bounty hunters that comes to Earth sees the Playboy and turns into like the hot lady with the boobs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they make the one very gratuitous scene of they have a shot of the chest as the breasts start to expand in the uniform.
Oh, the scene that is tattooed into our minds as young horny boys. Oh shit, you were off by one movie.
Was he in Critters 3?
Critters 3 featured the film debut of Leonardo DiCaprio.
No shit. Film debut?
Film debut. Yep, that's what it says right here in 1991.
All right. See? I'm not that far off.
Because he would have been 74, 84. Yeah, he was like 17 when this one came out. So
what was this? Or
yeah,
Growing Pains days?
I'm trying to remember.
No, he was younger in Growing Pains, I believe.
I'm trying to remember when Growing Pains went off the air because he was only around for like the last season or two, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. At least I remember that part.
I was gonna say good memory, man. Yeah, because gun to my head. And once again, this adds to the fantastic, hilarious shit that everybody who's famous always seems to get their start in horror movies.
Yep. Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
One of my favorite ones in Cutting Class, which is like a weird meta slasher film from like 1988 or 87, was the first movie of Brad Pitt.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Why did I think? No, I guess you're right. No, in Cool World, he was out for a while at that point.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was definitely because I've looked it up before. Like, yeah, Cutting Class was Brad Pitt's first movie, and of course, Kevin Bacon. His theatrical debut was Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, everybody starts in fucking horror. Heather Langenkamp started there as well, although I think I'm the only person who really has fond memories of her.
What else has she been in?
Heather Langenkamp?
Yeah.
Why
am I drawing a blank?
4, 3, A New Nightmare, and Just the 10 of Us with Bill Kirchenbauer.
Okay, yes. No, I was saying more like outside of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, maybe she wasn't as prolific as I thought she was. Never mind. But Just the 10 of Us didn't rule.
That was a TV show, right? With the father?
Yeah, it was the Coach Graham T. Lubbock. He was the spinoff of Growing Pains.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I fondly remember that one as well. All the daughters.
Yeah, he gets hired. He leaves New York to go teach at a school in California, but he doesn't realize until he gets there that it's an all boys Catholic school, and of course, he's got 5 daughters. So.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot that was a spinoff.
Well, not a lot of people have a reason to even remember the fucking show, because not a lot of people even remember Growing Pains. That was way more prolific than Just the 10 of Us.
Very true. So, once again, Hollywood in TV's form saying, hey, we don't want to make this unless we can spin something off of it. Like Happy Days. I know this is reaching back a ways at this point, but you have that one doing so many different spin-offs of so many different characters. Johnny Loves Chachi, the Mork and Mindy show was Laverne and Shirley a spin-off out of that?
I honestly don't know. I think they were both set in Milwaukee, so it very well could be. I'm looking it up right now.
But yeah,
that was a little before my time. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's before my time. Hell, I just remember that one because it comes up quite a bit when people are saying, "Oh, spin-offs." Certain shows were like the mother of all spin-offs, and Happy Days was one of them. I remember that was more specifically because of Mork and Mindy and Robin Williams. So, because he debuts and is playing this awkward character, and then like, hey, let's make this character appear weekly, and that just becomes it. But
oh wow, you're right. Yeah, Laverne and Shirley was a spinoff of Happy Days. Oh man, good go, man. God.
Again, I have useless trivia in my brain. It just sits there and waits for moments like these where I can just spew them out. Fuck. I could like I could have gone to MIT. I could have built a robot by now. No, I'm stuck fucking watching old TV reruns and movies that I haven't watched yet. God damn it. Along the lines of useless trivia, I don't know if this is true, but I heard a rumor. And I don't know if this is like a fan-made thing, like they're just wishful thinking, but there might be a Nightmare on Elm Street series coming to a streaming platform.
Okay.
And if it's to be believed, we'll have to wait and see. They're just calling it Fred.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're trying to like stay away from some other franchises that are currently using the name Freddy. More specifically, Five Nights at Freddy, that movie that just came out based off the video games. But whether we may or may not get a Freddy Krueger series, a horror series, I think that'd be amazing. Not like the old Nightmare on Elm Street anthology series, which was more or less like another version of Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, or The Hitchhiker.
Yeah, the only thing those were really weird because each episode it would be like a different short story, and Krueger just kind of like did like the
shtick.
He just kind of like did the interstitials between them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He'd tell a bad joke and, just try to scare you, whatever the case is. And then, either the episode would begin or the episode would finish, much like the Crypt Keeper in Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. I mean, what a weird time that was that we got like a Nightmare on Elm Street TV show. What was it called? Freddy's Nightmares?
Yes.
Yeah, we had that. And then we also had the Friday the 13th TV show that had nothing to do with Jason.
No, that was the one where they had like the antique shop or the pawn shop, right?
Yeah, and they had to go like get like all the cursed items back and all that wacky shit.
Which, funny enough, there was a show on Sci-Fi back in the day called Warehouse 13.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, which had a very similar premise. It was more sci-fi than anything else, but like famous objects from like historical figures would be cursed or haunted and imbued with certain like magical properties, and they'd have to keep them from falling into the wrong hands because a combination of any one of these objects can bring about like the end of the world. And it was a pretty good series. Unfortunately, it didn't get the long run that it should have. It had a few seasons under its belt, but it ended prematurely, unfortunately. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. If you want to talk about movies that should get more time to tell their story, bring back Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.
Ah, I love that. God, I love that movie.
Because that first one is still fucking amazing. It still holds up as far as I'm concerned. Billy Zane just going crazy and just being, over the top and demonic and everything else. Like, we don't have to pick up exactly where that one left off, but let's spin the tale of Demon Knight and the amulet and everything else, and people just trying to chase this sucker down to try to bring about the end of the world. That
especially, go ahead.
I was gonna say that was a great story and had a great fucking soundtrack too.
Especially because one of the things I loved about it too was it's set up for. They had the sequel ready to go right there because they're like, oh, the Black Demon Knight was showing up on the trail of Jada Pinkett. Well, yeah, back then it was Jada Pinkett. She wasn't even married to Will Smith yet. Yeah, because I remember watching that and loving it to the point where like that was like one of the first VHS tapes I remember buying, and just thinking like, oh man, they got to be making a sequel to it. But then they're like, no, we're gonna make an anthology, and then 2 years later we got fucking Bordello of Blood,
which didn't quite hold up.
It sucked balls. Face it. The only thing I got going for it is Angie Everhart is gorgeous.
Absolutely, yes. And then they made the mistake of letting Dennis Miller write his own dialogue. So
you could have just stopped that sentence at they made the mistake of Dennis Miller. I think that was the first time I saw him, and I was like, wow, this guy's a fucking irritating tool.
Yeah, you really don't like him too much. He's supposed to be the good guy in the film.
I've never found the guy funny. I just always found him to be an annoying asshole, but comedy's subjective. But yeah, and the soundtrack was fucking sweet for that.
Now, if I remember correctly, in Bordello of Blood, the Key does make an appearance in that film as well.
Yeah, I remember. I think like the key, the amulet, it allowed whoever held it to control. Spoiler alert: Angie Everhart was like the leader of like and was like an ancient vampire.
Sounds good to me. Keep
Yeah, but
that state forever young? Yeah, sure, why not?
yeah, but it was something. It was something wacky. Like whoever bore had the key, like had some type of control over her, or something weird like that. I have not watched that movie in. God, that came out. Who weird bit of trivia about me for that movie. The first time I had my driver's license and drove myself to the movies, that's what I went to go see.
Not a bad choice.
Actually, it was pretty. That was number one, and about 2 weeks later, I went to go see Crow City of Angels.
Nice.
I
Yeah,
just remember thinking like, this is hilarious. I was like, fuck, like those are the first two because it was still that novelty of like, oh my God, I'm driving. This is insane.
yeah. If we can get a trilogy or more of Demon Knight, that story
Mhm.
of Keepers of the Amulet or the Key, whatever it was, going through and just trying to essentially play keep away from the forces
Mhm.
of hell.
Yeah.
Uh, that just needs to come back. That would be amazing. I'll give up my Critters reboots and series if we can just do Demon Knight all over again. And
Mhm.
again, not even all over again, because the first film is done so well for what it is. Like it's a great story.
Oh yeah.
If you could just pick up from there, you don't have to bring back Jada Pinkett. You don't have to bring back whoever it was who was playing the other the black character at the very end who is chasing after Jada Pinkett. But just keep those themes and have the first movie be the lore and just go from there. Like the idea that this spun out of Tales from the Crypt and like, oh, we're gonna make a movie out of this, and then just becomes what it was. Again, Billy Zane and the all the number of actors that are holed up in this little like what was it, like an inn or a hotel.
It was a church that was converted to a long-term hotel for, and it was kind of implied that all the people living there were kind of like, they were like outsiders and derelicts and ne'er-do-wells and people kind of living on like the outskirts of society.
Yeah,
Like the one lady was the prostitute, and the one guy was the kind of like the down on his luck postal worker. The one lady, Jada Pinkett's character was like on work release for like Grand Theft Auto, I think, or something like that.
yep, yeah. If we can pick up from there, use that as the framing method for the rest of the story, and get another couple films out of it, I think it would work really well. Because nowadays,
Hmm.
especially horror is, let's face it, it's gotten just as popular as any other genre.
Yeah.
So why couldn't we have a continuation of that, whether it be movies or a series, but just having that continue?
Hmm.
Fuck, I think I need to get my typewriter out. Those movies are fun. There's two
No,
things I
that's
want to
a
write now: is a Ghost Rider story and a continuation of Demon Knight.
no. It was those were great movies. That was one of those ones where good God, that was one of those movies where when I had the VHS, I would watch it like once every 3 or 4 months because I liked it so much. Hell, I'm pretty sure I still have the movie poster floating around somewhere.
For Demon Knight?
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. I've got a giant stack of all my old movie posters that I just wrapped them in plastic and put them in like one of those cardboard tubes, and I haven't cracked into them in some time. I definitely know I've got the original Crow movie poster. I've definitely got The Craft. I'm pretty sure I have Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. I don't remember what else I have. Like, I'm seriously just need to go through there and be like, what do I have exactly? Because between being friends with people working at video stores and working at video stores, when the promos would come out, like was constantly like, I'll take that, and I'll take that. Because
All
they would
great
send
things.
more promotional material than we had places to put up promotional material.
Oh, of course, that was the usual thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking up right now on Max to see if possibly I might be staying up late tonight.
Are you trying to see where Demon Knight's streaming anywhere?
I would love to watch it again. Are you kidding me? I think that between that and The Phantom, I think I like fell in love with Billy Zane's acting style. Because he could just play a prick, but in Demon Knight, he was so over the top. It was fantastic.
Oh, that entire line when he reveals who he is, and he's standing outside the hotel yelling at everybody, and he whips off the cowboy hat, and he yells, "Enough of this cowboy shit, you fucking hodunk, hodunk, well then there, motherfuckers." And he just starts screaming at everybody, like, all you had to do was give me the fucking key. And then all of a sudden, like, he slices his hand open, throws around the green blood, and all of a sudden demons rise out of the fucking ground. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what made me fall in love with that performance. From right there, from that moment on, he could do no wrong in that character role.
No, oh my God, he is so good at playing such a smarmy prick. It's amazing.
Unfortunately, I have to report that I don't see Demon Knight, and I'm checking out HBO Max, or what's just Max now. That makes me sad because Tales from the Crypt was an HBO series, right?
Um, yes, but since that was went into production, I don't know. I'm getting the feeling that that was like one of those weird, um, like one of those weird deals where like maybe the ownership like went through like the major studio system or something wacky like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I'm looking right now, I'm on Just Watch, and let's see, it's on Stars, but that's a
Okay.
paid channel.
Yeah.
You can buy it on Prime for $15. Jesus Christ, that's a little pricey.
$15 for
Um,
Demon Knight?
yeah, it's what it says here. Like, yeah, buy it on Amazon Prime for 15, buy it on Google Play for 15, buy it on
Jesus.
YouTube for 15. Yeah, everybody wants $15 for it. At that point, for that fucking price, you should just buy the fucking DVD.
Yeah, seriously. I might just do that tonight.
You can rent it for $4 on Prime.
Yeah, oh, that might be doable then.
Yeah,
Uh,
$4 is a little bit more reasonable.
they do still have the Spawn animated series on HBO Prime though, or HBO Max Prime. Jesus.
God,
Okay.
that thing was so fucking frustrating.
What, Spawn?
Yeah, it never really had a good ending.
No, well, unfortunately, it just that was the nature of the beast at the time. I mean, taking an R-rated comic and trying to turn it into an animated. So that's what we should do. We should watch that and just go over that one episode.
Speaking of dark, I mean, like dark in content matter, and also dark as in, yeah, for a cartoon, it was like felt like it was like super underlit.
Yeah, I mean they were trying to get away with like the edginess that was also the comic book at the time. Again, you know, we talk about Image Comics and all the different creators who broke away from their other labels so they can make the independent label of Image Comics. At the time, it looked fantastic. I'm sure some of the techniques now are a little bit dated, but
Yeah,
I mean, if you try
it's
to put up
also
the animation style of Spawn to like Invincible on Amazon Prime, I don't know if you've watched that one, but the animation on Invincible is fucking amazing. So try
no,
to,
I haven't watched anything on any of that. I've since Amazon started up that two-tiered system, like the lower price you get commercials and the higher price you don't. I'm like, yeah, motherfuck Amazon right now.
yeah, I was trying to watch a Kevin James comedy special over the weekend. And about 15, 20 minutes into the special, mind you, it's a 1 hour comedy special. And then it breaks away for a commercial. And not even like there was a good spot to like break away from. They just interrupt one of his jokes and go to commercial. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Huh.
That didn't sit too well with me. Invincible has commercial breaks as well, but that's a series. You know that you can take a break from here and there. When you watch a comedy special, you expect to watch a comedy special uninterrupted. So, what movie was it I was trying to watch? For one night I was trying to watch. It wasn't on Prime. It was on another streaming platform. But I was trying to watch John Wick. I was just in the mood for good gung fu scenes, and as I'm watching, all of a sudden, like during one of the action sequences, it breaks to a commercial. I'm like, John Wick should not have commercials at all. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. So I immediately stopped. I'm like, I'll just wait for it to show up on another platform. I'm just going to get annoyed the next time a commercial break pops up. Screw this. But I find it funny how we're trying to get away from cable TV and all the ads are now coming to streaming platforms.
Well,
So
I'm going to share with you a little tip I've learned.
what's that?
Okay, so as you know, I'm one of the last people out there who insists on having a desktop computer. But
Hmm.
I found out an interesting trick with that. If you use an up-to-date ad blocker, which I use for YouTube, because otherwise YouTube is absolutely insufferable with all the fucking commercials, um, that also works for Tubi.
Oh, no shit. Really?
Yeah, because I went to go throw something on my computer, which I usually put stuff on, like if I'm laying in bed and I fall asleep with it on. I threw something on Tubi, and after like 20 minutes, I was like, "That's weird. Why haven't we gotten a commercial yet?" Because I recently had to rewatch Meatballs and Meatballs 2, and
Good
yeah, I'm
films.
sitting there and I tested it out a couple of times, and I'm like, "Huh, that's interesting." So for anybody out there who's got a laptop or has a desktop computer, if you're an old man like me, yeah, take that laptop, run your streaming service through that, and you can get a cable to connect it to your television. So boom, there you go.
Okay. I just learned
Hmm.
something new tonight. Well, two things, actually. So, not
Yep.
bad.
And also another fun fact, where they did the entire crackdown on Netflix people sharing passwords,
Hmm.
I'm still able to access Netflix on my computer as well.
Okay, cool. Well, they might have, like, relaxed that after, like, the initial enforcement of it. I don't know.
No, here's the interesting thing. I cannot watch it. The TV in my living room, I use Roku. I cannot watch Netflix on there. Has not worked in, I think it was like last summer that they pulled that shit.
Okay.
Yeah, on my TV or on my computer, it runs just fine. I was just actually just watching Wednesday the other day on it.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. There you
Yeah,
go.
so yeah, get away from your Fire Sticks and Fire Streams and whatever the hell and Roku's and all that. Those are cool shit. But I'll tell you what, they're even more handy if you run all your stuff through a computer because, like I said, use your ad block and don't deal with the crap.
All right. There you go. I think we'll
Hmm.
end it on that. How do you feel?
I'm very tired and I have to pee.
Okay, let's finish it up then. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Eric Hernandez,
I'm Doug.
and we are the Rebelcast.